Hi again then guys, and welcome to another installment of Weekend Warriors, in particular on Gran Turismo 6 for this episode. And this is a series where we review basically all things sports car in nature. Could be 2+2 coupes, larger luxury coupes like Astons or Mercedes models, or it could be a much more traditional sports car, small, 2 seats, open top, that kind of thing. Now this car is somewhere in between. It's technically a car which is bordering more on the super sports car territory rather than just a sports car, but we have featured another version of this car before. Now, the version which we featured is the obvious choice to do, the premium. However, there is a specific reason why I'm reviewing this version as well, because the car in question is of course the 5th generation Corvette, the C5 Z06, the top of the line at the time. And the premium version is the slightly more updated, slightly newer version of this same car. So the reason why I'm reviewing this car is actually for a similar reason to the premium versus non-premium Mustang GT argument, and also the premium versus non-premium Viper GTS argument. And that is that just because one is a premium doesn't automatically make it a better car. It may well have some better options, maybe a better price, sometimes some better visual tuning options, and it might look or sound better, sometimes even perform better. But, and incidentally this also applies to the premium versus non-premium Mercedes SLR McLaren case, that sometimes the non-premium car still has a huge amount of potential to offer, and in some select cases they can actually be better in some ways than the premium cars. The Mustang GT, for instance, in non-premium form, is a more powerful car when tuned. And it's also a lot cheaper, almost half the price. So it's not necessarily wise to just discount non-premium cars because you have a premium option. Now, 9 times out of 10, I would probably recommend the premium overall, but if you have the opportunity to check out both, or want to see an alternative to having just the premium model or just a standard model, then it is sometimes worth looking into the other option. That's the case with this review, because we already talked about the premium. The premium Corvette C5 is a brilliant car as far as I'm concerned. It's got great performance, great value, the visual tuning is some of the best in the game, but this car offers something very interesting, because the numbers aren't necessarily hugely different to that model. It's got a 5.7 litre supercharged V8 rear-wheel drive. You're looking at 802 horsepower, which is fairly similar, 680 pound-feet of torque. It weighs 1154 kilos, all the kind of numbers which you would probably expect this car to have when tuned. Even the PP level isn't ridiculous. It's 621, which is quite high, of course, for a road car, but given that it's a Corvette with 800 horsepower, not too surprising. Now, in a straight line, the performance is similar on both cars. I haven't done a one-on-one battle between the two to find out the absolute quicker of the two, but they definitely have similar, especially top-end potential. Now, the reason why I'm reviewing this car in particular is actually nothing to do with its power, its price, its performance, not in that way at all. It's actually the handling. And this is something which I've noticed happens not just with this non-premium version, but with a couple of others as well. And you only really notice this happening when there is a premium car to compare it to. Because if you compare the non-premium SLR, Mustang GT, Corvette C5, Viper GTS, and a variety of others to their premium counterparts, you will quite often find that the handling is notably different. Now, that isn't necessarily an obvious thing. You might expect that to be the case, but given how similar the cars are, you wouldn't necessarily expect the handling to vary that much. But, and here's where it gets really interesting, the handling on some of these non-premium cars, such as this one, I would say, is actually more reminiscent of the PS2 era than it is the PS3. So in other words, I would say this Corvette handles more in the kind of way that I would expect it to on Gran Turismo 4, for instance, than on Gran Turismo 5 or 6. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing, because although this car has, I would say, at least less emotion and less character in the way it handles, it's not as tail-happy, the car is a little bit more neutral through corners than the newer version, so it's not necessarily as fun or as engaging, but what it is extremely good. In fact, the handling on this car is, I would say, almost as good as the C5R race car. And that's not all too surprising, because the C5R is based on this one. Not as much as that Corvette, of course it's based on that one, but I mean it's also a non-premium, so it has closer ties to this one than the premium version. So overall, this isn't necessarily the kind of situation where I'd recommend buying this instead of the normal one, but if you can afford to buy both, I would recommend trying this one out and comparing it to the premium car, because I guarantee you will notice, perhaps dependent on tuning, but I don't think so, that the handling is not just different, but potentially quicker on this car. Although in a straight line it's not necessarily the faster of the two. And again, I would probably recommend the premium if you're only going to buy one of the two, but this one might just be better around corners. So it's definitely worth checking out if that appeals to you, if you want better handling, better cornering potential from your Corvette, and this is the particular generation that you're going for. But that's it overall for this particular pick. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.